Since I have my 4x4 disassembled, I'm just going to do a quick assembly video. This is a ShengShou version 5, but it works with almost any 4x4 with this type of mechanism. So when you have all the pieces in a box like this, take out the 8 corners and separate them by white and yellow, so that when you assemble your 4x4 you can just have the corners solved and have everything else random, and it makes the assembly go by faster. So there are these 4 different types of pieces. You have your center, your edge, your corner, and then your 2 inner pieces. These inner pieces fit together to form another edge-like thing. So you have 2 of these smaller inner pieces and a bigger one to form an edge, like that. So to start assembling, you first should notice that there's these hook things on the ShengShous, and they basically just make sure these smaller inner pieces stay in. So, and then there's this bigger centerpiece here. So to start off, you want 2 of these smaller inner pieces, 2 of these bigger inner pieces, and 3 of the centers, and 2 of these edges, and a corner for your first quarter of the cube. So first you look at where the bigger centerpiece is, and you have that facing one direction, and you put these things, the smaller inner piece, under these hooks here. So like that, and you slide this in between like that, and you do the same on this side. So you put these smaller inner pieces under the hook part, and you slide this bigger inner piece in the middle. Depending on your tensions, this might be easier or harder for you. So now that you have it like that, you turn it upside down, you grab one of your centers, and you put it here. Like that. And then you put your 2 edges around it. Like that. It doesn't matter what color it is. It just happens to be white. And then you put your corner down with white down. With white down on the bottom layer. And now you take your other 2 centerpieces and you put it here and here. And then you have to take another edge piece, take your other edge piece, and you put it in there, like that. And then you grab 2 more smaller inner pieces and a bigger inner piece. So you have you basically want to put this in here like an edge piece. This also depends on your tensions, and if it drops in there you can just always try again and take it out. Hopefully without disassembling your cube by accident. So I find it easier to put the two smaller ones in first, and then just sliding the bigger one. Well, we're just putting a smaller one in, and then the bigger inner piece, and then sliding the other smaller one in between the centers. So this last piece, I know this is a black cube and you probably can't see anything. But yeah, it should look like that for your first quarter of the cube. And now you just basically repeat it for the rest of the cube. I'll show you that next. So next you want 4 of these smaller inner pieces, 3 centers, 3 edges, 1 corner, and 2 bigger inner pieces. The next step is putting this into this hook-like thing again. And then you grab your other inner piece and you put it on top of the other center. So like that. And then you just slide your bigger inner piece in between. Like that. And then you do the same thing as last time, where you just put your center in here, and then you put your 2 edges around that center. And then when you grab your corner, make sure the corner has white on it and that it matches whatever color is here. So in this case it's red, and I make sure the red white matches because you're making a 2x2. Basically, you're just solving the corners of a 4x4 while you're assembling it, and then you continue building. Put your other centers in the cube, and then grab your last edge. You just set it down, and then you grab your 3 inner pieces and put it into the cube like before. I know this is putting the edges, the inner pieces in is the hardest part. I still have trouble after assembling a lot of these. Just try not to disassemble what you just assembled while you're doing this, so try and be careful. So I finally got it in, so now your cube should look like that. Both sides. So next we're going to finish making the entire white layer, so that we have half of the cube assembled. To finish the half of this cube, you want 2 corners, the last 2 white corners. You want 6 of the center, 3 of the bigger inner piece, 6 of the smaller inner piece, and 6 of these edges. So to start off, you use the last hook-like thing that's in the core and put your smaller inner piece on it. And then you attach your bigger inner piece and your smaller inner piece in between here. So, like, I set the inner piece in, the smaller inner piece in first, and then I put the bigger one in like that. like that. Like that, and then you finish the rest of the cube the same way as you did the last 2 times. Put this in, 2 edges, put your corner in, and notice that this is blue, so you have to pick the corner with the blue, like that. So the corners match, and then assemble the rest of the pieces. 2 centers and 1 edge. And then you put your inner pieces in. Like that. And now you just do the last quarter of your white half of the cube. There's your center, 2 edges. Put your last corner, making sure that white is on the bottom. Like that, and assemble the rest of the cube. 2 centers and the edge. And put your inner pieces in, just like the last time you did it. So now if you want to lube your cube, now's the time to do it. I have some 50K Traxxas here that I put in a syringe, and I'm just going to put a couple drops here and there because it's already kind of lubed. So I just put a couple drops here, a line there, some on here, here, and here on half of the cube, and then I put some on the inner circle of pieces, just a really thin line, if you can see that. There's your line of lube, and then I put a few here, like on the center piece there, and on those smaller inner pieces, like that. So I only put this much lube in, but you can put more or less depending on your preference. So now I'm just going to assemble the rest of the cube, and I'll show you that, obviously. So next you want 2 more of these bigger inner pieces, 4 more of these smaller inner pieces, any corner you want, and that's for the 4x4 obviously, 3 of these centers, and 3 of these edges. So now you basically just do the same thing. You make your, except this time there's no hooks. So I choose one of the lubed sides because it makes the piece stay in better. So I basically set down my smaller inner piece on this, and then I grab the other one and I hold it to the with the center, and then I slide this bigger piece in. That did not work. So now it should look like that. And then you do the same thing as last time with your pieces. You just put them in like you did for the other 3 times. Grab a random corner and make sure that it's facing up, opposite of the white here, because you're making it, you're solving the corners, and then assemble it like normal. And then put your last pieces in. If your piece gets lost somewhere in the middle of the cube, just grab a pointy object and get it out, basically. So now you have a fourth of the top layer done, and you just continue doing the same thing until the cube is assembled. For the next part, you need 2 of the smaller inner pieces, 1 of the bigger inner pieces, 3 of the edges, and 3 of the centers. And you just do the same thing again. Put your edges in, and then when you're picking your corner, you see that this corner is yellow-orange, so you want the other corner with orange on it, which happens to be this one. Make sure yellow is on top and continue assembling. When you put in these things, since they're harder, I generally try to have the last inner centerpiece, the smaller inner piece closest to me, the one that I need to insert, so that it's a little easier. But you can probably find your own way of doing it that's easier for you. This is just how I do it. So now you just want to finish the rest of this. Next, you want the last 3 inner pieces and 3 of these centers and 3 edges and 1 corner, and you do the same thing. I generally, for the last 2 sections, I just put in this section first and then put in this. So that's what I'm going to do here. This time you look at this to see that this is blue, so you need the one with blue. The last 2 sections are usually the hardest to put in because there's so many pieces that you already put in. For the last 3 inner pieces, I generally put in the 2 smaller ones in first, and then put the bigger one in, because I just find that a little easier. And it's a lot easier for pieces to drop into the center of the cube. I finally got the last 3 inner pieces in, so now you can see there's just this last part of the cube left. Take your last corner and just put it in. Make sure it's facing the right direction, in the right orientation and permutation. And basically I would put the edges around it first, well, one of the edges, and then put these 2 centers in. Just stuff it in. If that happens, just put it back in to the cube, doesn't really matter. And now you just have the last 3 pieces. Put in this piece. Well, you could put this piece in first, because that will stabilize this corner a little. And then put in this piece, the centerpiece. Just, yeah, basically just stuff it into the cube. And then this piece is going to be a little harder if your cube is really tight, and easier if it's pretty loose. So in my case, it's pretty loose, and I could just pop it in. So now all you want to do is solve your cube. Make sure that it's solvable and break in the lube. So from only that tiny bit of breaking in, I can already tell that the amount of lube I put in was pretty close to what I want it to be. The cube is fast and really slightly gummy, but not gummy enough to really notice. It's still pretty good. It's really fast and it can corner cut pretty well. But that kind of has to do with the tension. So this has been my 4x4 assembly video. Leave a comment below if you have any questions, and I'll get back to you when I see the comment.